Well, my work, while I was working under my business name, David Dobie Design, is I took a design approach to working out problems, to finding solutions. And it was mostly based on architecture, building, designing houses, modifying them, landscapes, things to do with our built environment. And I felt like I had a strong intuitive notion of what would work and what wouldn't work, and a fairly good way to convey that to people, to clients who were coming in here because they couldn't figure it out or didn't want to figure it out, so they're looking for a resource to help them through that. And I think I had a good way to communicate by going out with them, talking with them, hearing what their issues were, and perceiving what was going to work for them in the end with the money that they had to spend to invest into it. And so I think that was kind of what wrapped up my work for the decades that I spent doing this. This will be the third iteration of this project, and probably the last unless I get invited to try it again. But what I've wanted to do, and it started about 10 years ago when I had some health issues and was wondering whether I was going to continue working or not. I got through that, came back to work, and then it felt like, yeah, okay, I think I've done pretty much what I want to do in my architectural life. But there's all of this other stuff that I'm wanting to investigate, and then I thought, well, I've got like file drawers full, like the big drawing file drawers that are stuffed. I can hardly get them closed, and all of these drawings. And I thought, well, I don't want this to be about a portfolio of projects that I've done. Those exist out there. They're built and they're lived in or worked in. And so I took it to mean that for me, I wanted to do something with all of this. And that was taking those drawings and trying to remanifest them into something else. So when you look at these, it's more about a process than it is about a project. And so when you walk into the gallery in Grand Forks, I want to feel like you can walk into this space that has form and imagination in it, that's trying to convey our temporariness in this world. We build things and we think, yeah, it's going to be timeless until a new timeless comes along, and then another new timeless. We're always kind of tearing down what we've built, and a lot of stuff is degrading on its own, but we kind of perpetuate it a lot just by our own desires. And so these forms, the way I've got them set up, is that they're either sinking into the ground or they're rising up out of the ground. It just depends on how you see them. And remanufactured trees, because we're now kind of phasing out of just going for a walk in the forest to, well, where is the forest and what's left of the forest? And okay, well, let's create, was it Cathedral Grove? We'll designate, okay, that's the forest. So I've created these manufactured trees out of construction lumber. And so it's a metaphor for our willingness to let go of the natural world and say, okay, I'm happy enough with the facade or the facsimile of the natural world. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of different layers that I'm wanting to express in this project. Mostly it's the material that I worked with for so long, which are the drawing aspect of construction, and to create a whole different element out of that. So these aren't trying to convey instruction to build something. It's actually a medium to create form, and a transparent form to underline the fragility that we live in. Well, you know, I can more respond to that by hearing what people say, oh, that's one of your houses, or that's one of your houses. And they say, well, I can go around the area and I can pick out all your houses. And I go, oh, well, that's interesting, because I don't think I would say that's necessarily my style, other than it always felt appropriate. And I think when people go into some of the houses that I've designed, they feel, yeah, everything's working here. The light's great, the movement, the flow traffic, traffic flow is great. You know, it's functioning, it's beautiful, it sits on the landscape, and I guess that would be my style of architecture. But it isn't labeled as, well, he only does timber frame, or he only does modernist, because you can take a modernist building and you can finesse it perfectly and it still won't fit where it is. And you can take a craftsman style house, do the same way, make it perfect, and it still doesn't fit. So it's all of these random pieces that need to come together. And I think that was where my skill lay. I think I've worn out my hands. I've got arthritis in them, so now it's harder for me to pick up tools, but that's still what I do. And I really feel, and I've written about it, that that tactile connection between our dream state, our imagination, and actually manifesting something physically in the space, it can only happen with our body, and we can use tools to support that. And drawing is one of those little sidebars where I really fully got into the whole drawing aspect of it, because that was a way I could manifest all of those ideas in diagram form to convey to someone else, here's what I'm thinking, here's how you can build this, here's how that part goes into here, and here's how and this is what it's going to look like. And yeah, that's totally, that's a very physical, mental physical combination. You know, probably the last 10 years of my work, I would start to use an iPad, and I would sketch on the iPad just because of the convenience. I could be in our camper van beside a lake somewhere and sketch out something, but I still have sketchbooks. I've got a whole bookcase full of sketchbooks with, you know, where I'm drawing and writing. The actual CAD system, I could never, I tried hard for a couple of years to get into it, but it just didn't click with me. Mm-hmm. So I would hire people to do CAD drawings when I needed them. But and it's not like I avoided that. If it was necessary, great, okay, here it is, and you will do this. It was not a time saver. It didn't save money. It actually took longer, because no, that's not what I meant. That line was actually just a line that didn't mean anything. And that line that you didn't put in is actually the line that we needed. So there was so much back and forth, back and forth. It didn't save any time. And I look at computer drawings, and unless they're done by a highly skilled technician or artist, they look flat to me. Mm-hmm. I love the nuance of hand drawing. First of all, we've eliminated a skill set. Mm-hmm. That was that intermediate skill set. Mm-hmm. So we've got semi-skilled skilled builders, and then we've got designers and clients, and that there's a big gap between there. And so now, yeah, the whole AutoCAD system, or the computer generated infrastructure, is really the only way to do that. A good example is the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona. And it's a phenomenal building, designed over 100 years ago. And you know, he built models, and they would use those models. Okay, you take this big chunk of granite and you make it look like this to a larger scale, and they would just use calipers and carve away took years and years. People would spend their whole life doing that one little part because it took so long. And now they've got CNC cutters, and they're just blasting through that, but they're holding true to that design, which is a wonderful thing. Well, for detail, it would be someone like Gaudi. I mean, his fantastic imagination was beautiful. And Hundertwasser, the Hungarian-Austrian guy, crazy guy, but you know, he would just take a smokestack. They said, can you make this look better, because we're burning garbage right in the city and we don't want people to reject this project. And then you've got someone like Richard Serra, who does these very undetailed but absolutely gorgeous forms, you know, out of solid, like not solid, but heavy weathered steel. And you know, so there's all of those combinations of inspiration plus just being outside. You know, I think you can't ignore what's going on out there, the you know, the plant life and the animal life and the interactions of water and land. It's just beautiful. Not much in the way of the academic. You know, I came out of it with a physical skill of preparing drawings and cleaning, because I've drawn ever since I was like a little kid. I just was constantly drawing on whatever I could be handed. And so it wasn't like I didn't want to draw. It's just I didn't quite know the proper way to create construction drawings or sketch revisions, that kind of thing. And so I went back to school to kind of finesse that, and I came back and I felt like I had the tools I needed, because I had the ability to perceive what people needed and wanted, and an ability to talk with them until we figured that out, and to work around to kind of illuminate what the problem or issue was. Felt most comfortable working in the small scale realm. Like, I did a lot of commercial work, but it was still small scale. It's a small community. And if I hadn't have had any background in building, because I worked as a carpenter's helper for quite a while, and if I hadn't have had that, I wouldn't have had the same appreciation for what I was drawing, knowing that some poor person in the trench with, you know, up to their butts in mud is going to have to try and create the form for this foundation. So am I going to, because I have this idea that's not been proven, that yeah, you'll just make this work? I mean, having been in that muck, yeah, no, it doesn't work. So it was invaluable to have that experience of actually putting stuff together, so that when I put out drawings, they were informed from another level, not just academically. They were informed from actually building stuff. Worked on a renovation for some people once, and these were the second owners. I had also worked on this house before, and they knew that I had done some work on this, so they invited me in, and I said, we're new owners, got a different set of needs, so we want to change this house, but we want you to help us with this. And one of the descriptors they use is, well, we want to create a timeless kitchen. I went, well, that's interesting, because you want to rip out this kitchen and put in a timeless one. Well, that's what the previous owners did, and that was 7 years ago. So timeless is really pretty short-lived, and it's just a figment of our imagination and it's also a way of justifying our desires. Let's call it timeless, meaning that, yeah, this is going to last forever and I don't have to worry about it anymore, but really it's just, this is what I want, and I'm going to spend the money on it. And we'll call it timeless to make us feel a little better about it. I don't know. I mean, housing is a commodity now, right? It's like a guaranteed investment certificate, and hopefully the market is going to edge it up, and everyone assumes that you buy a house, and when you go to sell it, and you will sell it someday, that it will be worth more than what you paid for. And you'll do whatever it is to make that happen. And I continually advise people to make this house work for yourself, not as a commodity. And if you're doing this on a speculative venture, let's not invest in this, let's not invest in that, because you're not going to get a return on that. Make it look like it'll fit the market and move on. Do another one if that's what your thing is. But if you're wanting this to be your home, let's take the speculation out of the equation. Let's take the perceived market increase out of the equation, because you won't be happy. If that's your end goal, is to make more money than you're spending now. This is your home. Do what feels right with the resources that you've got at hand. Like, don't overspend so you're locked into a mortgage forever. But make this work for yourself, and then you can actually live in your home at peace. So I worked with a fellow when I first started out, and he liked to make models. He came out of the Chicago architecture realm, and he moved here, and his idea of making models were like big foam core models, detailed, and I really, it was almost like dollhouse kind of thing, where you could pull the roof off, you could pull the floor out, and you could kind of look down inside this. And so that started me in on, models is a great way to convey ideas. But that method of modeling was so restrictive, it was almost like an end result rather than part of the design process. And I liked something that was a lot more malleable. So I'd use simpler materials. I carved a lot out of wood, and they would be small little, they would fit in the palm of your hand. And I can show you, I've got some up there that are, these little models that I could kind of experiment with. Sometimes I'd use plasticine, sometimes wood, and then I'd kind of roughly form the landscape and go, okay, so what do you think? And that would be in a design meeting with the client. Here's kind of how I'm thinking your house will look. And they go, oh my God, this is, I've never thought it would look like that. And well, it doesn't have to, but this is what the idea looks like. And then usually, by the time we went through the design part of the project, where we're getting closer and closer to a final design, then I would craft a model, which are the kinds that I've kept here. And I say, so this is what we've decided to do. And are you in agreement with this? As to, you can imagine yourself going up this little driveway, and that's what you're going to see. And it was a way to get everyone to go, yeah, this is what we want to do. And then I would start to do the construction drawings. But the model was a really important part of the decision making and the design process. A lot of this is singular hard work. All of this drawing was, while I enjoyed every minute of it, well, I won't say every minute. There were probably times when I wasn't in a good space for it, but generally, this is what I liked doing. And I hired a woman to work with me for a few years, and then she left to have a family, and then I never rehired anyone other than on contract. So I was always working on my own, which, there's a certain thing that happens when you work solo, is that you're hearing your own voice, and you're not collaborating as much. So my need to collaborate was involving clients, contractors, builders, craftspeople, tradespeople. All of those people were part of the collaboration that I felt like I brought in through that door. But all of this work that that we see here are many, many hours of concentrated, focused work, and I think that doesn't happen a lot. I think people will do something really intensively for a few years and then, okay, I'm done, I need to go do something else, or they lose interest. And this kind of collection of work is, and I look back and I go, oh yeah, I can remember all of these drawings. I can remember where they went, what they were about. I remember the parts that got revised many times. And I think it's important for people to understand that there's nothing wrong with focused hard work. You get a lot out of it. And I'm a little bit alarmed at the shallowness that I see people's concentration in. I mean, our phones are a good example of that, where we're just flipping through our phone. We can't settle on anything. We're looking for something else, but we're not sure what that else is. And I think this conveys a long, focused time, which I think is good.